Streaming live since 2009, you're listening to the best of the Seberg 1000 background music library from Los Angeles, California.
Seberg, thanks for stopping by. Okay, it's time for The Hook. We have The Hook. Let's see here. I got to check some. Sorry, live chat's unavailable. We got some problems there. Let's see if this works. See if we can get the pop out. Because my chat's not working. That works better right there. All right. So we're back to The Hook. Bear with me here. This is what we're trying to do. 3, 2. Most podcasts lose listeners in the first 30 seconds. Not because of audio, but because nothing is happening. By the end of this episode, you'll know how to structure a podcast episode that makes sense from start to finish. So yeah, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about how to structure your podcast. We've discussed planning your podcast. We've discussed ideas, audience of your podcast, how to structure those, how to find those. But here we are looking at specifically the flow of your podcast. We go back to your defined audience. We go back to your idea. Until you establish those, you don't have a podcast. What you're talking about, who you're talking to, those are important. The next thing is your flow. It starts with a hook, and we used one to start this episode. A little hook, a little teaser. You can use it in your social medias to kind of promote your podcast, but it needs to be something that poses a problem or a question. It needs to be something that teases what's going to happen in your podcast. It keeps you focused as a podcaster, that hook, that teaser. It gives you a talking point to start the episode so that everything else just kind of falls into that. There is a structure to this. Some podcasts use a loose structure. Some keep a tight structure. It just depends on the podcaster and the audience. Can they handle that? Structure keeps you focused. It also helps listeners follow along. If you're just taking shots here, there, kind of random points, random talking points, there's no structure to your podcast, sometimes losers are going to lose interest. We don't need that. It also makes editing easier. When you're in the flow and you have a structure that you know as a podcaster, and you go back to edit the audio or the podcast, it makes it a little simple. Makes it simpler to follow, and for you and for the listener. It reduces rambling. I will ramble sometimes. I will go off on a tangent in my podcast, and I need to bring myself back to what the structure is so that we can finish clean. Structure is not a script. We're not reading from a script line by line. A lot of times structure is an outline. Talking points, bullet points, 1, 2, 3, 4. What are your topics covered? If you have a guest on, what's going to be the first topic and the questions for that? You know, if you have a structured podcast like this where we go through how to or an explainer video, then there needs to be a guide as to, how to get from point A to point B to point C, so that the listener can learn and apply what they've learned. Structure is not a script, as I said before. Structure is a plan. The basic podcast episode framework, very simple. We're going to go with a beginner-friendly flow. Number one is the hook. The hook is your first 10 seconds, 15 seconds, maybe 30. It's what brings the listener in and makes them stay around to listen to what you have to say. It also leads into the intro. The intro, or introduction, intro is the slang for it. The intro is going to be an overview of what the day is. And then you get into the main content. The main content it's the meat and potatoes. It's what the podcast is about. It's the most important things that you're going to talk about that day. And it's more talking and less teasing, so to speak. Then you got the wrap up, what you've talked about today, what you've talked about in the episode. Then you've got the outro, call to action. It just works well to wrap that podcast up and kind of, end the day on a good note so your listener will come back and listen to your next episode. This works for solo, it works for co-hosted, it works for interview podcast, it works for a lot of different formats in the podcasting world, and it's well used by most of the big podcasters. It really does justice for you, the host, and you, the listener. It helps you there. Let's go back to the hook, the first 15 to 30 seconds. Give the listener, let's cut that out right there. Let's go back to the hook, the first 15 to 30 seconds. Give the listener a reason to stay. Good hooks, ask a question, state a problem, make a promise. Avoid long personal stories, content up front. Avoid explaining everything in the first 15 seconds. The hook is a hook. It's no more than that. You can talk about the stories and explaining everything in the intro and the content later. The hook is what brings people in. The hook is what keeps people there. The next is your intro. The intro is important. It sets expectations. It should answer what is the podcast for that episode. Why should you care as a listener? Keep it short, keep it clear. Keep it consistent from episode to episode so that there's a similar format and the listener gets comfortable listening to what the intro is. Don't go into the details so much. Don't go chase your tangents in the intro. Organize your content. Your main content needs to be organized, not perfect. Break it into segments, talking points, bullets, ideas. That's what I'm using here. I use bullet points and talking points to kind of work you through what a podcast is. You're guiding a conversation. You're not reading off a script. You're not reading off a paper or a screen. Notes are important. They're greater than a script for most beginners. I like to make an outline. If you subscribe to AI, put your 4 main topics into a ChatGPT or some kind of AI and let Gemini and let them kind of give you ideas. Don't just talk about what they brought up though. That's going to be very robotic at first until it learns you. Talk about what you want to talk about. Sculpt it, mold it into what you want it to be. But start with an outline. It can be yours. There's a lot of tools out there to help you with that. Next, the transitions, the flows. How do you move from one idea to the next? Use keywords, use transition words. I use next. I use what we're going to talk about next. It's really just about the flow of it and how you move from topic to topic. This is a very expedited podcast. We're not going to spend a lot of time each day talking about intro, hooks, flows. We're going to go over it briefly so that you can listen to it and then go out and make your content. After you get the main content done, after you've, flowed from your hook to your intro to your main content, you got to wrap it up before you end. Summarize the key takeaway. Remind listeners why this matters. Bring it back to the purpose of the episode. Wrap it up in a bow, so to speak. Make it so that the listener knows that you're ending the episode, and then just kind of, like I said, put it in a package for them. What have we talked about today? Your outro, your call to action, that's going to be after the wrap up. Follow, subscribe, listen to the next episode. So cut that. Let's go back. The outro, the call to action, follow, cut. I can't talk today, guys. I really can't. The outro is a call to action sometimes. Ask them to follow, subscribe. Ask them to tune in for the next episode. Tease what's coming next. An example, in this next episode, we'll talk about recording, what you actually need and what you don't. What do you think our next episode's going to be about in podcasting on podcasting? Let's talk about you as the podcaster. I want to reassure you that episodes don't have to be perfect. This one's not. There will probably be a lot of editing in here. I've restarted a couple segments more than once. The live stream will show that. Structure improves with repetition. Practice, practice, practice. That's how you get to Carnegie Hall. You have to practice. You have to go and put yourself out there. You have to listen to yourself. You have to edit what you say. And then you almost have to edit yourself in the next episode so that you get better with practice. Every episode you do is practice for future episodes. Podcasting is plan, record, reflect, and then improve. That goes into my Mastery in Motion. Whole curriculum on how you use rubrics to grade students. I'm not going to get into that, but that plan, record, reflect, improve is key in podcasting also. You want to give the listener a task. In the last episode, I tasked them to write one sentence about their idea and one sentence about their audience. So you want to task them into what to do, and so that they have some homework, so to speak, so that they're thinking about it after the episode and they're recalling it when they listen to the next episode. So you could create a simple episode outline for your next task. What's your hook? What are your 3 main talking points? Could be more. And what's your closing thought? In this next episode, we're going to go over recording basics. Mics, spaces, habits that make you sound better. That's what we're going to do in episode 4 of Podcasting on Podcasting. This is Coach AV Tech. Thanks for listening. All right, so there's our live stream. There's our podcast. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'm trying something new here. I've been doing my podcast in Audition, but I wanted to add some video aspect to it, so we used a little OBS, a little live stream. This could turn out great, okay, or it could be an absolute disaster. We might have to do this all again in Audition. That's okay. That's part of the practice. Those of you that have tuned in or are tuning in the replay, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking us out. Feel free to like, subscribe, and tune into the next podcast. I'm on Amazon Music. We're on Spotify.